As we speak, Seattle continues to dig itself into an early grave, thanks to the Socialist Party. But what are they doing to impede progress this time? Oh, the usual, they just want to eat the rich. Dirt! So let's get into the headline of this article. It reads, Seattle Socialist City Council member Kshama Sawant wants to make an example out of Amazon. And by making an example, she means tax Amazon and the owner, Jeff Bezos, into oblivion. Why? All for the sake of creating affordable housing. Yeah, a textbook communist move. And alas, the people are too stupid to realize what they're getting by voting for these socialist parties. They openly share their support for communism by playing communist music in restaurants like McDonald's. That's right, I went to a McDonald's in Seattle once, and they were playing Zenyuk Adult over the PA system. And that's a Hungarian communist song. And if you were to go to Hungary and sing that in public, people would collectively, and rightfully so, beat your f***ing arse. Because they lived through communism, and it completely destroyed their country and their economy, as well as the mindset of the people. Oh yeah, he also told me that communist paraphernalia will get you prison time. See, the Hungarian people, they don't play around. But I digress. Let's get into this article further because there is a lot I want to cover here. Now, before diving into the article completely, I want to give you a brief history about Kshama Sawant's history, because the more you hear about it, the more red flags you're going to see. Now, she's originally from India, and not that it matters, but she got her bachelor's degree in computer science at the University of Mumbai in '94. Then after coming to the United States, she earned a PhD in economics from North Carolina State University. That's actually a pretty big change there, would you say? So prior to her getting elected to city council, now she was an economics teacher at the Seattle Central Community College. She is a member of the American Federation of Teachers Local 1789, representing them as a delegate to the Martin Luther King County Labor Council. So, were you able to count all the red flags in that statement I just said to you? Well, there's more. Now, she was elected to the city council in 2013. Although her position is officially non-partisan, Sawant is a member of the Socialist Alternative Party. So, that being said, let's take a look at her election history, okay? Now, she first ran for city council in 2012. And she was running up against a Democrat, but during this time she was identifying as a socialist alternative. Now, she lost by a landslide. She lost by a ratio of 3-7. So the following year, she decided to identify as non-partisan. And what happened? She actually won. She won by a very narrow margin. She won with 50.9% of the votes, and she's been in power ever since. So if you want to see the other details regarding the disparities of her victories and so forth, you can see the article in the description. I have it all there. Now, the biggest problem is the population. They keep voting for the problem, and they're too stupid in general to realize that they are. Seriously, just get a load of some of the policies that she supports and actually puts into law, like this one, for example. She recently just passed a law saying that anyone who is a victim of domestic violence is not liable for the damages after leaving. And obviously it's going to be used for women. And I can just see this law just being abused now. Want to get out of paying damages? Just, claim that you were abused by your live-in boyfriend or your husband. Leave him to foot the bill regardless of who did it. Oh, and get a load of this one. She now wants to pitch a ban on Seattle renter evictions in the winter. Because it's cold outside in the winter time and you don't want to add to the homeless population, you just want to be charitable and so on. It's basically one of those really ridiculous laws they took from Paris where you can't evict anybody between November and March. So you guys see the obvious problem with this? They're just going to stop paying rent in November all the way up until March. And then when they're legally required to pay, then they're finally going to just leave. Nobody in Seattle is going to want to rent to anyone during those months. This is ridiculous. Oh yeah, and she's a friend of Bernie Sanders. Alright, so now that you have a basic idea of what we're dealing with, I'm going to come back to France and the real estate market later because those things are actually kind of related to what I'm going to talk about. Now, quoting Sawant, Seattle was like a test lab. If we allowed them to get away with it here, then we can be sure they're going to go after other cities as well. Now, some people in Seattle are actually pretty grateful to Amazon bringing the jobs and prosperity as well as bringing new technology to the scene. But you're going to have those people that are going to have a big bone to pick with them, not just with Amazon, but with big tech in general. Now, the common opposition against Amazon and big tech in general are basically these things. They claim that big tech, Amazon in particular, is just making the city more expensive, as well as making this a corporate lot land / tax haven for the rich. Now, regarding the homeless problem in Seattle, I have already done a rant video previously, partially outlining why there's so many homeless people in Seattle to begin with. The homeless epidemic itself is not even 100% correlated to the rising house prices, because what do normal people do when they can't afford to live somewhere? They move somewhere else. And that is exactly what the native population of Seattle has done ever since things have been getting more expensive. Now, if you were to go there and you were to ask people where they're from, they'll mostly just say that I'm from such and such a state, from California and so on, and I'm here because of work, or I'm here because the state is more progressive, or because it's more relaxed when it comes to drugs and welfare. And this is what contributes to the homeless population more, because people that are homeless, they can live a more comfortable homeless life here. And they live here homeless because it's easier than getting a job. At least it's more favorable to them. Of course, the news and the mainstream media is not going to tell you all of this. What they're going to tell you is that the problem relies within the rich, somehow taking advantage of the poor. And the solution is to tax the people that have most of the money, and that is the rich and the big corporations. So in May of 2018, she proposed a head tax on corporations that make a certain amount, and that would tax them roughly $275 per employee. Now, Amazon has a little over 50,000 employees. So with this yearly tax, 275 times 50,000 is $13,750,000 US dollars per year. Now, the businesses were actually able to get this repealed within a month later, but Sawant is talking about bringing it back. Now, bear in mind that they're not just raising taxes on the rich, they're raising taxes in general. The tax rates have nearly doubled all across the board. For example, now this is coming from the article, until recently, Washington cities were banned from taxing net income. The Seattle City Council sought to test that state law by enacting a 2.25% income tax on high earners in the city. This summer, a judge struck down the income tax ban on cities in a victory for the city council. However, the judge ruled that the new wealth tax violated a constitutional mandate that all property be taxed uniformly. The issue is now likely headed for the state Supreme Court. So obviously enough, she is against regressive taxes. Now, she is vocalizing her views on regressive taxes also, because Washington State is known for having the most regressive taxes in the country, or one of at least, meaning that the wealthy residents pay a smaller percentage in the tax of their income than the poor families do. But if you think about it, there's a reason for that. And that's because the rich people pay the majority of the taxes. And making things worse, she wants to continue, and I repeat, continue, stress testing things like rent control and real estate developer impact fees and vacancy taxes for property owners who leave rental units empty. Abolish ICE, we need rent control, unionize Amazon, tax Bezos, brr brr brr. And once again, they're doing all this in the name of trying to help the homeless. A problem in which their policies helped create. Now, Seattle and King County spent over $196 million in 2017 to address the homelessness issues, using federal and respective general funds. And also in 2017, the mayor proposed a $275 million property tax levy to fund permanent housing units and mental health treatment over a 5-year period. And in addition to that, according to an independent report released in early 2018, King County would need up to 14,000 additional affordable housing units to house the homeless, costing $410 million annually. Now, even though 80% of voters were in opposition to this, they still keep voting for the same politicians like the f***ing retards they are. Now, I'm going to circle back to this towards the end of the video, because there's a history lesson to be learned here, and you're going to hear my Shogun hunch when it comes to all this homeless talk. So let's face it, generally speaking, Seattle's population is pretty cucked and usually pretty stupid. Not all, of course, but the majority of them were stupid enough to put these people in power. But companies like Amazon and Starbucks have actually been pooling their resources to fight back. Since Amazon saw the writing on the wall, they actually used $1.45 million in a campaign to actually get her out of office and support her opposition, someone who was a bit more business friendly. And ultimately, it didn't work. Now, she won again by a small margin, but she still won. And because of this, the Socialist Party of Seattle and the supporters actually hate Amazon even more, because they see Jeff Bezos as someone who's just trying to buy off the government, when in reality, he's trying to defend the interests of several businesses in the area. And frankly, this isn't good for the city, whether you're rich or poor, because in one way or another, it's going to affect you.
Yeah, but Shogun, what the hell is wrong with you? Amazon is a multi-billion-dollar company. It wouldn't hurt them to pay about an extra $13 million a year in taxes to help the poor. I don't see why it's such a big deal, because if you don't want to help the poor, you're just one big monster, you're just a one big meanie face.
Now, if this is what you're thinking, I'm going to read you a cautionary tale, and it's titled The Cost of Dinner. Each and every day, 10 men go to a restaurant for dinner together. The bill for all 10 comes to $100 each day. If the bill were paid by the way we paid our taxes, the first 4 would pay nothing. The 5th would pay $1. The 6th would pay $3. The 7th would pay $7. The 8th would pay $12. The 9th would pay $18. And the 10th man, the richest, would pay $59. Although the 10 men didn't share the bill equally, they all seemed content enough with the arrangement, until the restaurant owner threw them a curve. "You're all very good customers," the owner said, "so I'm going to reduce the cost of your daily meal by $20. I'm going to charge you just $80 in total." The 10 men looked at each other and seemed genuinely surprised, but quite happy about the news. The first 4 men, of course, unaffected because they weren't paying anything for their meals anyway. They still ate for free. But the big question was how to divvy up the $20 in savings amongst the remaining 6 men in a way that's fair for each of them. So they realized that $20 divided by 6 is $3.33. But if they subtract that amount from each person's share, then the 5th and the 6th men would end up being paid to eat their meals. So the restaurant owner suggested that it would be fair to reduce each person's bill by roughly the same percentage, and he proceeded to work out the amounts that each should pay. The results? The 5th man paid nothing. The 6th pitched in $2, the 7th paid $5, the 8th paid $9, the 9th paid $14, leaving the 10th man with the bill of $50 instead of $59. So, outside the restaurant, the men began to compare their savings. "I only got $1 out of the 20, said the 6th man, pointing at the 10th man. "And he got $9. "Yeah, that's right," exclaimed the 5th man. "I only saved $1 too. It's not fair that he got 9 times more than me." "That's true," shouted the 7th man. "Why should he get back $9 when I only got back 2? The rich get all the breaks." "Wait a minute," yelled the first 4 men in unison. "We didn't get anything at all. The system exploits the poor." The 9 men, outraged, surrounded the 10th man and brutally assaulted him. The next day, he didn't show up for dinner. So the 9 men sat down and ate without him. But when it came to pay the bill, they were faced with the problem that they hadn't faced before. They were $50 short. The end. Now, there's three primary morals to that story. 1. The one who pays the most should get the most tax breaks, especially if he's making up the difference for everybody else. If you're paying nothing into the system, how exactly are you being exploited? The rich man is carrying you. And most importantly, if you constantly attack the rich just because you think they have it better than you, and because you think that they're being treated more fairly than you are, especially when they're pulling your weight, they're going to leave. Because let's be realistic here, the rich, they don't owe you anything, especially not to a bunch of ingrate bums. And no, I'm not saying everybody that is homeless is a bum. I used to be homeless in Seattle. I know what it's like to sleep outside on a barber's bench, knowing that you had nowhere else to go, and no form of transportation to get where you needed to go either. On top of that, I actually stayed in a place in Seattle called the Aloha Inn. Those of you who are from there might have actually heard of it. Although it wasn't your traditional homeless shelter, they actually helped me get back on my feet so I could get myself back into society. But what I really liked about them was that they had requirements. They had work requirements, you had to be clean and sober, and you had to be putting money towards a savings account so you could actually afford to live on your own after 2 years, maximum. So that way we filtered out a lot of bums that just wanted a place to do drugs. Now those are the homeless people that I am all about helping if I can. But if I were a rich person and you were going to tax me into oblivion just to help the bums, the people that come here just for the welfare, yeah, I'm going to leave. I don't want my tax dollars feeding the problem. Now, if you don't believe the rich are going to leave once you start overtaxing them just because, then look at Amazon. They're actually going to be moving over to a neighboring city called Bellevue, and they're moving their entire headquarters out of Seattle and into Bellevue. And they plan to complete this move by 2023. And the reason behind the move, or should I say what kicked off their decision to make the move, because of the head tax. You see, Jeff Bezos is not as stupid as some of you might think he is, because if they're able to pass laws like this, it's only a matter of time before they start gradually increasing those taxes more and more and more. Because honestly, it doesn't stop at just one law. Oh, and let's not forget this. Now, circling back to the housing thing, okay? Amazon owns roughly 25% of all the office space in downtown Seattle. So if they were to pick up and leave all of that behind, imagine what that's going to do to the real estate economy as well as like rentals and whatnot. Trust me, it's not going to be looking good. So you want to make an example out of Amazon, huh? Well, Amazon's going to make an example out of you.
Why you fuck me, I fuck you!
Oh, and let's not forget about France. France is one of the best examples I can think of. So, from nomoretax.eu, an article titled, France Wants Its Rich People Back. So the French government is talking about reducing the tax rates, and they're going to gradually do it up until 2022. They realize they're losing out on competition, boosting in foreign investment, and even luring financial institutions and large corporations to move there. Now, France has some extremely high taxes, and it's gotten so bad that in 2015, 10,000 millionaires left France for tax purposes. Now, the French income tax is up to 45%. It's one of the highest in the entire world. Corporate taxes alone range between 33.3 and 50%, which they're talking of reducing to a flat rate of 25%. The property tax is levied at 80%. 80%? Are you guys high? Well, obviously the tax percentage is high, but you know what I mean, the other kind of high. Dividends and investment earnings are taxed between 50 and 60%. Oh yeah, they also have a rich tax, and it can go up to as high as 75%. Well, even if they did come up with some favorable laws, I can't imagine rich people going back to France anyway. So right now, France is just filled with kebabs, driving those trucks of peace and raping women and children in the streets. And you can't defend yourself against them either, or else you're Islamophobic. So yeah, I'm pretty sure those rich people are just gone for good. Or at least I don't recommend they come back.
Notice me!
Okay, focusing back on Seattle. Now, this is why you do not tax the rich into oblivion. It does not work. They are not a bottomless money pit. They are not some endless pay pig. And money does not grow on trees. Now, I want you to think back to the fall of Detroit, Michigan, and Gary, Indiana. When the industries left, they collapsed, they became dilapidated cities, and it remained that way ever since. And this is especially the case if your city or town is dependent on one very specific industry. So that being said, once again, the native population of Seattle is almost all gone. And they've basically been replaced with tech workers from outside the state. Mixed in with them are the homeless and welfare sponges, also from other states. So if the tech workers were to leave, because this was primarily a tech industry city, then all you'd have left are those people that are working the lower wage jobs, the homeless, and the welfare sponges. And it becomes the next Detroit. And that is what I see as worst case scenario of this socialist utopia experiment. You see, if you worked hard for your money, and you understood what it took to make that kind of money, and you had people that just wanted to just take it just for the sake of taking it, because they believe that it's unfair that you were able to amass this type of wealth, you wouldn't allow someone to just take it either. And if there's one thing I've noticed about people that say, well, it's not that big a deal. If I had $1 billion, I wouldn't mind giving up $1 million or $2 just to help the poor homeless people. There's a reason why you're not rich. Nobody understands the value of $1 more than wealthy people. And keep in mind that wealthy and rich are not synonymous. The rich get their millions from the lottery tickets or inheriting it from a family member or whatever. The wealthy sacrifice to actually earn those earnings and keep the cash flow going. You can be wealthy too. And the road to wealth starts with your mindset. Oh, and one more thing, because I almost forgot about this. Now, what do you think that they're actually going to do with all of that money? Now, here is my Shogun hunch, based on what is already happening in California, is that minimal to none of that money is actually going to go towards homeless housing and sheltering and so forth. Or at least that money's not going to be spent the way they initially said they were going to spend it. Now, Sawant wants to make it fiscally unfeasible to start building in Seattle. I mean, she's not saying that directly, but based on all of the taxes that she wants to impose, that's exactly what it's going to be. So it's going to be either self-defeating or the money's just going to get squandered in other directions. If she really wanted to do something about the cost of housing, maybe she should look into the foreign Chinese investment problem. Even in Cognata and Vancouver, they're actually doing this. But nah, let's just, keep sweeping that under the rug. No, we just gotta tax the rich. Never mind them. Just keep taxing the rich. So, if you're in Seattle or a part of the greater Seattle area, I warn you once again, get out. Get as far away as you can, or as far away as feasible for you. Do it before it's too late. Seattle's eventually going to go the way of California. And where's California going at this rate? Full Venezuela.